Baseball fans, this is the kind of day that separates casual bettors from true sharps. July 21st isn't just another Sunday on the MLB calendar. It's a 15-game slate filled with playoff implications, red-hot hitters, vulnerable aces, and a handful of sneaky weather variables that can swing total bases, props, and strikeout lines. Whether you're riding a heater or looking to bounce back from a brutal beat, this is the day to make your mark. From East Coast nail-biters to late-night West Coast fireworks, today's games offer value in every inning, and we're breaking down all 15 matchups in the scoreboard don't lie style. Deep tactical reads, pitcher edge breakdowns, and the betting props most likely to cash before the final pitch. You came for winners. You're in the right place. The Miami Marlins will head to Petco Park on July 21st to kick off an intriguing showdown with the San Diego Padres, and while on paper this might look like a mismatch, sharp bettors know that these are the kind of games that can flip the entire day's ticket. The Padres enter as firm favorites, currently priced around -190 on the moneyline, with a total hovering between 8.5 and 9 runs depending on the book. Michael King is the scheduled starter for San Diego, and the righty has been quietly dominant this summer stretch, bringing an elite combination of strikeout upside and ground ball command into the matchup. Across his last 7 starts, King has struck out 49 batters while only issuing 10 walks, keeping a tidy 3.12 ERA and an xFIP below 3.80. But what stands out is how well he's been locating that nasty sweeper early in counts to get ahead, then punching hitters out with late-breaking sinkers or elevated four-seamers. Miami's lineup doesn't handle that arsenal particularly well. They rank in the bottom 5 of MLB in expected batting average and WOBA against sweeping breaking balls and low 80s off speed. That alone puts King in a great position to control this game from the jump. Opposing King is Miami's southpaw Trevor Rogers, who has shown slight flashes of the 2021 version of himself lately, but the inconsistency remains the biggest storyline. In his last outing, Rogers allowed 3 earned runs over 5 innings against the Mets, striking out 6 but also issuing 4 walks and working out of multiple jams. That's been the pattern. The stuff can still flash, the four-seam has late ride, the changeup gets good fade, but the command just hasn't been sticky. More importantly, he'll be facing a Padres lineup that has torched lefties all season. San Diego ranks second in MLB in ops .828 and slugging percentage .460 against LHP this year, and they're especially dangerous at home where the heart of the order, Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, and Xander Bogaerts, all have significant splits advantages against southpaws. And don't overlook Luis Arraez's revenge factor here. He's been scorching hot since being traded to San Diego and leads the team in multi-hit games since the All-Star break. This is a lineup that grinds out at bats, hunts mistakes early in counts, and absolutely punishes fastballs up in the zone, which is where Rogers tends to miss when he's not dialed in. Petco Park has been playing slightly neutral to pitchers lately, but with the wind blowing slightly out and San Diego's recent offensive outbursts at home, there's reason to believe they could chase Rogers early and build a lead. Miami's bullpen behind Rogers has not been dependable. They've posted a 4.72 ERA over the last 30 days, with minimal swing and miss ability and a walk rate near 10%. If King can get through 6 solid innings, he can hand it over to the back end of San Diego's pen, which features Robert Suarez and Jeremiah Estrada, both of whom are sporting sub 2.50 ERAs and high strikeout rates. This sets up perfectly for a Padres win and cover scenario, particularly with their ability to win both the starting pitching duel and the bullpen war. Best bet: Padres -1.5 plus 110. The Marlins don't profile well against King, and their recent road numbers are horrid. Miami is just 1-9 in their last 10 road games and averaging only 2.2 runs per contest over that span. The Padres, meanwhile, have won 6 of their last 7 home games by 2 or more runs and are averaging 5.7 runs per game at Petco over the last 2 weeks. Add in the clear edge on the mound and at the plate, and the run line has real value. Strikeout prop. Michael King over 6.5 kiloseconds plus 120. This is a strong plus money play. King has struck out 7 or more batters in 4 of his last 6 starts, and the Marlins strike out at the 6th highest rate in MLB versus right-handed pitching. Miami's bottom 3 in the order, which often includes Jesus Sanchez and Vidal Bruggen, have strikeout rates north of 30% against righties with sweepers. With King projected to go deep, this has the upside you want at this number. Home run prop. Manny Machado plus 450. Machado has been seeing the ball incredibly well lately, with 3 home runs in his last 7 games and an average exit velocity over 91 miles per hour since the break. He's slugging .567 vs left-handed pitching this season and absolutely owns Trevor Rogers, having gone 6 for 13 with 2 hours lifetime against him. Look for Machado to get a juicy fastball early and take advantage. Total bases pick. Fernando Tatis Jr. Over 1.5 total bases plus 105. Tatis has hit safely in 10 of his last 12 games and has crushed changeups this season, slugging over .650 against them. Rogers relies heavily on the changeup against righties, and Tatis is more than capable of clearing this line with a single swing or a pair of knocks. Bonus bet. Padres team total over 5 runs minus 110. With Miami's bullpen instability and Rogers' matchup disadvantages, this is a total that's well within reach. The Padres have scored 5+ in 6 straight games at home and their offense is firing on all cylinders. Even if Rogers exits early, the middle relief options for Miami have been soft targets for teams stacking right-handed power. SGP Parlay, DraftKings or FanDuel. Padres ML plus King 6 plus Ks plus Tatis Jr. 2 plus TBs equals plus 450 to plus 500 range. All legs correlate well, and you're building a parlay based on a King gem and a Padres offensive explosion against a vulnerable lefty. Good price, good path, and you're not overly reliant on long shots. Final score prediction. Padres 7, Marlins 2, King goes 6.2 innings with 8 strikeouts and 1 earned run, while the Padres offense puts up 3 in the third and adds on against the bullpen late. A 2-run bomb from Machado and a 3-hit night from Tatis Jr. headline a convincing home win. The Cleveland Guardians head into Baltimore to face the red-hot Orioles in what promises to be a gritty, low-margin series between 2 teams that approach the game with fundamentally different identities. The Guardians live and die with elite contact hitting, plate discipline, and strong defense, while the Orioles lean heavily into power, athleticism, and momentum swings. The pitching matchup for this clash features Tanner Bibee for Cleveland and Cole Irvin for Baltimore, 2 pitchers who could not be further apart in terms of their expected roles this season, yet both have found their rhythm in 2025. Bibee has emerged as a legitimate number 2 arm in the Guardians' rotation, carrying a 3.44 ERA and 1.16 WHIP over 112 innings with an excellent strikeout-to-walk ratio and an ability to suppress hard contact. Cole Irvin, meanwhile, has revived his season after a rocky start, now holding a 4.09 ERA over 98 innings, and has looked sharp in his last few outings, particularly when working at home in Camden Yards, where his numbers have been far more favorable. From a tactical standpoint, the Guardians' game plan is likely to revolve around manufacturing runs through small ball tactics, exploiting Irvin's occasional control lapses, and stringing together base hits. Cleveland doesn't have much pop outside of Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor, but what they do possess is a lineup that fouls off pitches, works counts, and pressures pitchers into mistakes. They currently rank among the top 3 teams in fewest strikeouts and are near the top in contact rate, especially on pitches inside the zone. Expect Steven Kwan, Andres Jimenez, and Tyler Freeman to be pivotal in setting the tone. Kwan in particular has a tough matchup against Irvin's sinker-heavy approach, but if he gets on base early, the Guardians could get aggressive with the hit and run and drag bunts to rattle Baltimore's defense. On the other hand, the Orioles feast on pitchers who leave anything up in the zone, and while Bibee has a solid fastball-slider combo, the key will be his ability to command his changeup and curveball to keep hitters like Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman off balance. Both of those hitters are excellent low ball hitters, and Bibee will need to be razor sharp with his sequencing. Weather could also be a subtle factor here. The projected temperature at game time sits in the mid-80s with moderate humidity, and a steady 9 to 11 mph breeze blowing out to right center field. Camden Yards is already one of the more hitter-friendly parks in baseball, particularly for left-handed bats, and the wind could further amplify any mistake pitches left up in the zone. Both bullpens are above average, but Baltimore's late-inning arms, especially Yennier Cano and Craig Kimbrell, have had some recent volatility, making it likely that Cleveland will try to keep it close and take their shots against the middle relief corps. The Guardians' bullpen, anchored by Emmanuel Clase and hard-throwing setup Manhunter Gaddis, gives them a late-game advantage if Bibee can go deep and limit early damage. Defensively, Cleveland has a slight edge with their infield defensive metrics, and Baltimore has shown some lapses in the outfield positioning and reaction times that could cost them in key moments. Best bets: the strongest angle here is on the full game under 8.5 runs, given both pitchers trending positively and the two bullpens capable of locking down the final frames. Additionally, taking the Guardians' first 5 innings moneyline offers strong value, especially if Bibee continues to dominate right-handed hitters. Cleveland to score first is another intriguing angle, as their top-of-the-order contact game could put Irvin in early stress, especially with Kwan's elite OBP and Ramirez's ability to turn a walk or single into a quick RBI. A sprinkle on Bibee over 16.5 outs recorded makes sense too, given the Orioles' tendency to swing early in counts and Bibee's efficiency this month. Strikeout props: Tanner Bibee's strikeout line is set at 6.5, and the over looks sharp. Baltimore is middle of the pack in K rate versus righties, but Bibee's ability to generate swings and misses with the slider and high heater makes this a valuable target. He's gone over this mark in 4 of his last 6 starts, including a 9-strikeout outing against a similar profile team in the Mariners. Irvin's line is at 4.5, and while the Guardians don't strike out much, the under may not be as safe as it seems. If Irvin can get to 2 strikes, his cutter has been generating more chases lately. Still, lean under 4.5 with Cleveland's approach. Home run props: for the Orioles, Gunnar Henderson and Anthony Santander stand out as home run candidates. Henderson has been scorching in July, slugging over .700 against righties, and his pull-side power could be lethal with the wind blowing out. Santander's switch-hitting ability and success against breaking balls make him a threat if Bibee misses his spot. For the Guardians, Josh Naylor is the most likely candidate to go yard, especially with Irvin's tendency to allow hard contact to left-handed power bats. Don't sleep on David Fry either as a long shot. He has quiet pop and has been punishing left-handers with 8.310 ISO. Total bases picks: Jose Ramirez over 1.5 total bases is one of the best value plays on the board. He's 6 FOR 15 lifetime against Irvin with a homer and a double, and he's been locked in at the plate since the All-Star break. For Baltimore, Adley Rutschman over 1.5 total bases at plus money is a nice angle. He's been hitting the ball with authority and his switch-hitting versatility allows him to match up well with Bibee's off-speed stuff. Henderson over 2.5 is more aggressive but holds strong plus money value with how hot he's been. Bonus bets are run line angles. The Guardians plus 1.5 at -160 isn't cheap, but they've been exceptional in close games and rarely lose by multiple runs. If you want to fade Irvin's volatility, the Guardians team total over 4.5 offers better value than full game overs. On the Baltimore side, you can look at Orioles to score in the first inning, a riskier play, but Bibee has been vulnerable early in some recent road starts. SGP Parlays. A realistic parlay includes Guardians plus 1.5, Jose Ramirez to record 2+ total bases, and Bibee 6+ strikeouts. That combo should return around +450 to +500 depending on the book. You can get even more aggressive with Bibee 18+ outs recorded, Naylor to homer, and Henderson 2+ hits for a long shot +1,600 SGP if you're building for high upside. Final score prediction: Guardians 4, Orioles 3. Expect a tightly contested game with tactical managing, deep bullpens, and just enough timely hitting from Cleveland's top of the order to outlast Baltimore in a pitcher's duel that turns into a bullpen chess match. This Sunday's showdown between the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Detroit Tigers isn't going to grab national headlines like a Yankees-Red Sox rivalry clash, but bettors know that's exactly where the real value often hides, in games that don't get the ESPN primetime treatment. What we're looking at here is a sneaky tight interleague duel between two clubs still figuring themselves out post-All-Star break. The Tigers are set to host the Pirates at Comerica Park, and while the standings don't suggest postseason implications, sharp bettors see potential edges here worth jumping on. Let's start with the verified pitching matchup. The Pirates are rolling with right-hander Mitch Keller, while the Tigers counter with Reese Olson. Keller has become the de facto ace for Pittsburgh, logging a 3.71 ERA on the year with a solid whip around 1.20. His strikeout rate is a tick under 9 per 9 innings, and when he's on, he paints corners with a sharp cutter and gets swings and misses with a revamped slider. His biggest issue this season has been consistency. He can dominate for 6 innings or implode by the 4th if his command wavers. That volatility creates both risk and opportunity in betting props. Olson has quietly become a high upside arm in the Tigers' rotation despite a modest win-loss record and a slightly inflated ERA near 4.08. He keeps the ball in the yard, just 8 home runs allowed over 90+ innings, and works low in the zone with a deceptive changeup. However, his biggest hurdle is facing left-handed batters, who've tagged him for 8.289 average and 8.784 ops. This is where the Pirates, lefty-heavy top of the lineup, could exploit the matchup. From a tactical standpoint, both teams are in offensive slumps, but Pittsburgh has shown more recent signs of life. Brian Reynolds has been crushing the ball with back-to-back multi-hit games, and rookie sensation Paul Skeens continues to galvanize the dugout with his swagger, even if he's not pitching. Jared Triolo and Jack Sawinski have also been seeing the ball better lately. The Pirates are 9th in MLB in hard hit rate since the break, even if the runs haven't followed yet. That's often a sign of a breakout coming. Detroit, meanwhile, has leaned heavily on Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson, but both have been ice cold this week. Torkelson is mired in a 3-for-23 slump with 9 strikeouts, and Green is getting pitched around due to the lack of protection behind him. Kerry Carpenter is the X factor. If he can stay locked in against Keller's cutter, the Tigers can scratch out 3 to 4 early runs. But Comerica is one of the toughest parks to hit homers in, and the ball doesn't carry well in the evening, especially with Sunday's forecast calling for swirling wind patterns towards center field and temperatures in the low 70s. In terms of bullpen performance, the Pirates' late-inning arms have actually been more consistent lately. David Bednar, despite a rough start to the season, has locked in since June, converting his last 9 save opportunities. Colin Holderman and Aroldis Chapman have held the bridge well. Detroit's bullpen, however, is showing cracks. Jason Foley blew his 3rd save of the month last week, and Tyler Holton's recent command issues make late-game leads feel far less secure. The sharpest value in this game might be in the prop market, where we get a few intriguing angles. Mitch Keller's strikeout line will likely open at 5.5, and against a Tigers lineup that strikes out over 25% of the time versus righties, the over is worth a lean, especially given the umpire trends. The crew behind the plate calls a generous outside corner, which favors Keller's cutter. Reese Olson's line might hover at 4.5, but the Pirates don't chase much against righties and have one of the lower swing rates on pitches outside the zone, so that's a probable under. Now for the long ball. If you're hunting home run props, Bryan Reynolds is the clear play. He's got 3 hours in his last 9 games, and Olson's tendency to work low in with his sinker could feed directly into Reynolds' swing path. Another dark horse is Rowdy Tellez. If he draws a start, he matches up well with Olson's off-speed heavy profile and is overdue for a big fly. On the Tigers side, Kerry Carpenter is your best bet, especially if Keller starts leaving his slider up in the zone, something that's burned him before. For total bases props, Reynolds over 1.5 bases is worth serious consideration. He's not only hitting for power but also working counts and spraying the ball to all fields. On the Tigers side, it's slim pickings, but Javier Baez has quietly been squaring up more balls lately and might sneak in an RBI double in a low-pressure spot. Run-line bettors should be cautious. This feels like a tight game throughout, with both starters capable of spinning a quality start. The best value may come from live betting, especially if the Tigers go up early. Pittsburgh has been a late-inning comeback team all year, and their bullpen gives them a better shot to steal it in the 8th or 9th. Same-game parlay players should consider a modest payout combo like Keller 6+ Ks, Reynolds to record a hit, Carpenter to walk or hit a single, and under 9.5 total runs. That builds around realistic outcomes without chasing moonshot odds. Depending on your book, you can get that combo in the plus 450 to plus 550 range, solid value for a game with narrow margins. When it's all said and done, the Pirates just feel like the sharper side in this matchup. They're better positioned to exploit the Tigers' bullpen, their lineup has more weapons firing lately, and Keller, for all his inconsistency, is still more trustworthy than Olson against a lefty-heavy order. Detroit might scratch first, but Pittsburgh should claw back and control the game late. Final score prediction: Pirates 5, Tigers 3. Best bets: Pirates ML, Keller over 5.5 kiloseconds, Reynolds over 1.5 total bases. Home run picks: Bryan Reynolds, Kerry Carpenter, long shot. Lean, under 8.5 total runs. The Washington Nationals and the Cincinnati Reds lock horns in what could be a sneaky spot for bettors willing to embrace variance and pitching matchups. The Reds come into this game leaning heavily on the firepower of their youthful core and the occasional spark from their bullpen, while the Nationals are playing with that nothing-to-lose energy that makes them dangerous underdogs. Both teams sit in the middle tier of the National League, and while neither is a playoff lock, this matchup provides several intriguing wagering opportunities due to the clash in offensive philosophy and pitching stability. We've got Nick Lodolo on the mound for Cincinnati, and this young lefty has turned into a bit of a boom-or-bust play for the Reds all season long. Lodolo brings a high strikeout ceiling but occasionally loses his command deep into games, especially when facing lineups with a solid right-handed presence. The Nationals, while not known for heavy power, have developed a contact-based approach that feasts on pitchers who live in the zone too long. Lodolo's 3.81 ERA entering this matchup is serviceable, but his whip hovering around 1.25 and inconsistency with his curveball command has led to some inflated innings against low strikeout lineups like Washington's. On the flip side, Jake Irvin will get the nod for Washington, and he's been one of the more quietly consistent arms in their rotation. Irvin doesn't overpower hitters, and his K9 sits just below league average, but he's done well to limit hard contact with his cutter and changeup. His road splits are better than expected, and he's done a particularly good job neutralizing left-handed bats, which is notable considering the Reds' top producers, like Elly De La Cruz and Jake Fraley, hit from the left side. Irvin won't turn heads with 10-plus strikeout games, but he's absolutely capable of going 6-plus innings of two-run ball, which sets up interesting under-wagers. One of the biggest storylines here will be how the Reds' high-variance offense matches up with Irvin's finesse. Cincinnati loves to run, ranking top 5 in MLB in stolen bases, but Irvin and catcher Keibert Ruiz have been slightly above league average in controlling the running game. What this means tactically is that the Reds may have to rely more on situational hitting in timely doubles than simply manufacturing runs through chaos. That hasn't always gone well for them in tight matchups, especially in games when they face pitchers who can induce weak grounders. Offensively, Washington has quietly become a pesky squad in terms of putting bat to ball. C.J. Abrams and Lane Thomas have been driving the Nats' engine, and when they can get on base early, they often put pressure on the opposing starter to pitch from the stretch. This becomes a huge key against someone like Lodolo, who tends to unravel when innings drag. Don't overlook Joey Meneses either. He's been a menace in July with 8.315 average over his last 15 games and is seeing breaking pitches better than earlier in the season. When it comes to the bullpens, this matchup tilts slightly toward Washington. The Reds' relief corps has been inconsistent all year, particularly in high-leverage spots. Their closer situation has rotated due to ineffectiveness and minor injuries, while Washington's backend, though not elite, has been surprisingly competent. Hunter Harvey and Kyle Finnegan have combined for a top 10 save conversion rate since mid-June. If this game stays close through 6, the Nationals could actually hold the edge in the late innings, particularly if Lodolo is chased early. From a betting standpoint, the best value here comes in attacking the total and isolating prop plays based on matchup trends. With two starters who won't miss many bats and offenses that lean on situational hitting, there's a good chance this game lands somewhere in the 4-3, 5-4 type zone. If either pitcher gets hit early, both bullpens will be tested, so be cautious with live overs. Best bets for this game begin with the full game under 9 at plus money odds. Lodolo and Irvin both have the tools to manage these offenses through 2 turns of the lineup. While the Reds can be explosive, they're just as likely to be cold, especially against pitchers like Irvin who live outside the heart of the plate. The Nationals don't have a lot of pop, but they do a good job wearing pitchers down. This game screams a slow, grind-it-out affair. In the strikeout props market, Nick Lodolo over 6.5 kiloseconds offers value if the number is below -120. While Washington doesn't strike out much, Lodolo's home splits and ability to miss bats with his curveball gives him upside here. Conversely, Jake Irvin's under 4.5 strikeouts could be a sharp play if priced around even money. He's been more about soft contact than overpowering hitters. For home run props, you want to look at Lane Thomas as a sneaky value. He's been red hot against lefties and has 8.500 slugging percentage against southpaws this season. Tyler Stevenson is a solid Reds option, especially if Irvin makes a mistake with his cutter up in the zone. In terms of total bases, C.J. Abrams over 1.5 bases is worth a shot, as he's been squaring up fastballs consistently and could turn singles into doubles with aggressive base running. Elly De La Cruz also profiles well, especially if he gets a fastball early in the count. His exit velocity metrics suggest he's due for another power surge. For those building same-game parlays, a solid combo would be Lane Thomas to get a hit plus Lodolo 6+ strikeouts plus under 10.5 total runs, which should price around plus 400 to plus 500 depending on the book. This leverages the expected pitching tempo while backing the Nationals' top bat and Lodolo's swing and miss stuff. Final score prediction: Nationals 5, Reds 4. It's a coin flip game with edges going to whichever starter can navigate the lineup twice without collapsing. But with Irvin's consistency, Washington's contact-heavy approach, and a bullpen that doesn't implode as often, the Nats have enough edge to pull off the road win. Sprinkle the moneyline if it's plus 130 or better. The showdown between the Philadelphia Phillies and the Boston Red Sox on July 21 is shaping up to be one of the more electric interleague matchups of the day, a clash between two offensively loaded teams with playoff aspirations and pitching rotations that have shown both brilliance and vulnerability. At first glance, this looks like a potential slugfest, but dig a little deeper, and you'll find key angles that bettors, DFS players, and prop hunters should absolutely not overlook. On the mound for Philadelphia, Zach Wheeler 11-5, 3.02 ERA, 0.98 WHIP continues to operate at an ace level, quietly putting together another Cy Young caliber campaign. With 146 strikeouts in just 125.1 innings and a WHIP under 1.00, he's among the most efficient starters in the NL. His advanced metrics, a 2.87 xFIP and 28.3% K rate, back up the eye test, and what separates Wheeler from others is his ability to pound the zone early, work deep into games, and avoid the long ball, just 0.73 HR9. Against a Boston team that can be streaky with the bats, Wheeler's ability to neutralize lefties with his high-riding four-seamer and that wipeout slider is a major edge. Boston counters with righty cutter Crawford, 6-7, 3.64 ERA, 1.14 WHIP, who's turned in a surprisingly effective year. While he's not a household name, Crawford owns a 25.5% strikeout rate and a respectable 3.91 ERA. He's allowed more fly balls than you'd like in Fenway, but his 30.1% CSW rate and elite chase metrics tell a story of a pitcher who lives on precision, not power. The Phillies lineup will test him hard. Philadelphia enters with a TOP5 team ops, spearheaded by Kyle Schwarber's leadoff power, .818 ops, 22 hours Bryce Harper's consistency, .299 AVG, 17 hours, and Alec Boehm's breakout year in run production, 61 RBIs. When you mix in Bryson Stott's scrappy contact skills and JT Realmuto's elite framing and sneaky pop when healthy, this team is one of the most complete offensive units in the majors. More importantly, they've handled right-handed pitching better than lefties this season, slugging .427 as a team versus RHP, a significant marker heading into this matchup. Crawford's challenge will be to get ahead early and avoid long at-bats, particularly against Schwarber and Harper, who rank among the top 10% in the league in pitches seen per plate appearance. On the other side, Boston's offense continues to hang around in the top half of the league despite battling inconsistency. Rafael Devers remains the cornerstone of their attack with 23 home runs and 8.875 ops, and Jarren Duran's been a revelation with his speed and OBP .370. Masataka Yoshida's return gives them more balance from the left side, and when Trevor Story is locked in, Boston can run into any pitcher. However, the Red Sox have struggled against power right-handers this year, ranking 22nd in team ops against starters with strikeout rates above 26%. That stat looms large with Wheeler on the bump. The venue matters here. Fenway Park has played slightly pitcher-friendly this summer despite its offensive reputation, with cooler night temperatures dampening late-game run production. With winds projected to blow slightly in temperatures in the low 70s, don't expect the ball to jump off the bat unless barreled. Another wrinkle: Philadelphia's bullpen. It's one of the best in baseball, posting a 3.30 ERA and an 11.1 K9 rate since June 1. If Wheeler can hand it off after 6 or 7 solid innings, Jeff Hoffman, Jose Alvarado, and Seranthony Dominguez form a lethal back-end trio that's nearly unhittable with a lead. In contrast, Boston's bullpen has been up and down. Kenley Jansen has looked hittable of late, 1.42 WHIP, and the middle relief is shaky, especially when Crawford doesn't get deep. That bullpen edge is why Philly will likely lean into a slightly aggressive offensive approach early, hoping to knock Crawford out and flip the game into the hands of a taxed Boston pen by the 6th. From a betting standpoint, the Phillies are currently slight road favorites at -125, and that feels justified considering Wheeler's dominance and the edge in bullpen and lineup depth. The total is hovering around 8.5, and while the temptation is to pound the over given both lineups, the pitching quality, especially if Wheeler is in command, leans this more toward an under scenario unless Crawford melts down. Historically, Wheeler has been outstanding in July, career era of 2.83 in the month, and the Phillies are 9-2 in his last 11 starts overall. Boston, meanwhile, has dropped 4 of their last 6 games at home when facing a starter with a WHIP below 1.10. As for player props, strikeout lines are worth watching. Wheeler's K prop will likely be set around 6.5, and that feels beatable against a Red Sox team that swings early and often. Devers and Duran are dangerous, but the bottom half of Boston's lineup has a combined whiff rate near 29% against high-velocity fastballs. Wheeler's fastball averages 96.3 miles per hour, that's a green light. On the flip side, Crawford's K prop, likely 4.5, might be worth fading. Philly doesn't chase much, and guys like Stott and Bohm rarely strike out. If you're hunting for home run props, Harper is always in play in Fenway, where his left-handed stroke plays beautifully into the bullpen area. Keep an eye on Realmuto as a sleeper HR pick as well. He's historically feasted on cutters and low-velocity breaking stuff, Crawford's bread and butter. Total base props. Consider Bryson Stott over 1.5 total bases. He's been seeing the ball well and has multi-hit upside against righties with lower velocity. Run line angle. Phillies minus 1.5 offers nice plus money, plus 145 range, with Wheeler on the mound and a rested bullpen behind him. SGP angle. Wheeler 6 plus Ks, Phillies ML, Harper to record a hit. This sits around plus 210 and offers great value with realistic paths to cashing. Final score prediction. Phillies 5, Red Sox 3. A tight contest early, but Philly's edge in high-leverage arms and plate discipline proves too much for Boston's thin bullpen. There are few matchups in Major League Baseball that capture the tension, intensity, and playoff caliber feel quite like a Yankees versus Blue Jays clash in the Bronx, especially when the postseason picture is becoming clearer by the day. With both teams locked in an American League wild-card race that's as unforgiving as it is thrilling, this Sunday showdown at Yankee Stadium has much more than a single win on the line. Toronto and New York each bring star-studded lineups, dominant bullpen arms, and ace-level starting pitching into this bout. On the mound for the Yankees is left-hander Carlos Rodon, a high strikeout southpaw who's recently rediscovered his elite form, while the Blue Jays counter with veteran right-hander Kevin Gausman, one of the best pure strikeout artists in baseball when he's locked in. The Yankees are banking on their home field advantage, the short porch in right field, and their recent power surge led by Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton to overwhelm a Toronto team that has had mixed offensive results this season. Toronto, however, has proven to be a nightmare for left-handers at times and is loaded with righty bats like Bo Bichette, George Springer, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., all of whom have past success against Rodon's fastball-heavy arsenal. Tactically, this game hinges on how effectively Gausman can manage traffic early. The Yankees rank among the top 5 in first-inning runs this season and typically look to ambush early-count fastballs. Gausman will need his devastating splitter to neutralize Judge and Soto, who both slug over .600 against four-seamers. Toronto's infield defense will also be tested, especially with Anthony Volpe and Gleyber Torres doing damage with hard-hit grounders and line drives to the left side. Meanwhile, Rodon will have to avoid long innings and high pitch counts, as the Blue Jays' plate discipline could force him into deep counts early. When Rodon struggles, it's usually command-related, his slider flattens, and his fastball rides too much of the zone. The Yankees' bullpen, anchored by Clay Holmes and Ian Hamilton, has been one of the most reliable late-inning groups in the AL, which gives them a sizable advantage if they take a lead into the 6th. Toronto will need timely hitting and perhaps a big swing from Vlad Jr. to tilt the momentum in their favor. They'll also need their bullpen, which has been uneven lately, to hold up against the deepest 3-6 lineup in the American League. Look for Dalton Varsho to play a key role both defensively and on the base paths. He might be Toronto's X factor in a close game if it comes down to squeezing out an extra run. The Yankees' recent metrics at home have been ridiculous. They rank second in home ops .819, third in home runs per game 1.78, and have outscored opponents by over 40 runs in their last 20 home games. Juan Soto in particular has been raking, with 8.349 average and 1.112 ops in his last 15 games. That's the kind of heat that can carry a team offensively, especially against a Toronto pitching staff that has allowed 8.276 batting average to lefties since June. Gausman is still a major weapon, though, when his command is on, his strikeout upside is elite, and the Yankees lineup does swing and miss. Judge has a 32.2% whiff rate against splitters, and Stanton has been vulnerable to off-speed pitches below the knees. Gausman will likely focus on tunneling his fastball and splitter off the same plane to bait these hitters into chasing. Strikeout props lean both ways here. Gausman has cleared 6.5 kiloseconds in 4 of his last 5 starts against teams with a top 10 strikeout rate, and the Yankees are hovering around 24% K rate against righties since the All-Star break. Rodon also has a decent chance of going over 5.5 strikeouts, as Toronto has been one of the worst teams against left-handers in terms of slugging and hard contact over the last 30 days. Still, Rodon has struggled to get deep into games, averaging just 5.1 innings in his last 6 starts, and he's allowed at least 1 homer in 5 of those. That brings the home run props into the picture. Vlad Jr. and Bichette are strong candidates to go deep, while Judge and Stanton both have favorable XSLG splits against Gausman's pitch profile. The short porch in right favors Stanton and Soto, especially if the wind is cooperating in that direction. Total bases picks could include Volpe and Judge, who have been red-hot at the plate and tend to come up big in divisional matchups. For Toronto, look at Bichette and Varsho to quietly provide production in lower leverage spots. The over-under on this game opened around 8.5 and has moved slightly depending on the weather forecast. Park factors at Yankee Stadium heavily lean toward the over, especially in July with higher humidity. That said, both pitchers are capable of putting up zeros, so it may come down to which bullpen bends or breaks late. For bettors, the full game moneyline favors the Yankees at -135, while the Jays sit around +115, depending on the book. The first 5 line is closer to a coin flip because of the pitching matchup. Live bet value could emerge after the 3rd inning based on Rodon's command and whether Gausman is locating his splitter. One potential bonus bet angle is on the Yankees team total over 4.5 runs, which they've cleared in 7 of their last 10 home games. If you're building a same-game parlay (SGP), consider the following legs: Juan Soto 2+ total bases, Aaron Judge to record an RBI, Yankees ML, and Kevin Gausman 6+ strikeouts. This pays out around +550 depending on your sportsbook. Alternatively, for a higher risk SGP, you could go with Vlad Jr. to hit a homer, Blue Jays +1.5, and Rodon under 5.5 kiloseconds for a +950 style ticket. For best bets, Yankees moneyline is still worth playing under -140, Soto over 1.5 total bases at plus money is attractive, and the over 8.5 if you find -110 or better. If the roof of offense opens up early, this game could turn into a slugfest. But if both starters find their rhythm, we could be in for a 3-2 grinder decided by one swing. Final score prediction: Yankees 5, Blue Jays 3. The Sunday clash between the New York Mets and Los Angeles Angels at Citi Field carries more weight than it appears on the surface. While both clubs sit outside the playoff picture in their respective leagues, the matchup offers sharp bettors the chance to capitalize on an overlooked interleague duel that blends home park dynamics, mismatched pitcher form, and clear trends in offensive rhythm. The Mets enter this one bruised and humbled after dropping a heartbreaker in extra innings on Saturday, a game they led early but let slip in classic Mets fashion. The Angels, meanwhile, snapped a losing skid with that victory and have found a sudden spark in their young lineup, but their travel-worn bullpen is teetering on the brink. Every pitch in this game will be magnified, especially with both clubs looking to salvage momentum heading into a brutal stretch of schedule ahead. On the mound for New York is right-hander Christian Scott, a promising rookie who has become a bright spot in an otherwise cloudy Mets rotation. Scott has quietly carved a 3.81 ERA across his last 5 starts with a 27.6 strikeout-to-walk ratio and has shown a surprising composure when pitching at home. He's pounding the zone with a +4 seamer, mixing in a biting slider that generates a 36% whiff rate, and rarely puts himself in dangerous counts. One area he's still refining is pitch efficiency, often running high pitch counts and struggling to get through the 6th. But the Angels lineup is tailor-made for a pitcher like Scott. Lots of swing and miss, inconsistent approaches with runners on, and poor performance against elite sliders. .211 xBA, bottom 5 in MLB. Expect Scott to exploit those holes, especially against right-handed hitters who have combined for 8.199 batting average off him this season. The Angels counter with lefty Reed Detmers, who has been a maddening case of inconsistency all season. Detmers owns a bloated 5.72 ERA and his underlying metrics offer little comfort: a 1.46 WHIP, 8.278 expected batting average allowed, and a hard hit rate north of 42%. In July, he's been especially vulnerable, allowing 17 earned runs over his last 17 innings, including multiple homers in back-to-back outings. Detmers' curveball, once his weapon, has become too loopy and hittable, especially to righties slugging .511 off it this year. And the Mets, while inconsistent themselves, have been hitting lefties significantly better in July, especially Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, and Pete Alonso, who combined for 8.320 average and 5 home runs versus Southpaws this month. With Detmers on the bump and his road era ballooning to 6.23, there's a clear edge to the home lineup. Weather-wise, Citi Field on Sunday should play fairly neutral with mild winds blowing out to left field and temperatures in the mid-80s. That will give a slight boost to power righties, but it won't be enough to dramatically shift run expectations unless Detmers implodes early. The park's large dimensions do favor pitchers when they're pounding the zone, and Scott has thrived in such scenarios. The Mets' bullpen, though often maligned, is in better shape than the Angels. They've used fewer high-leverage arms this weekend and could lean on Adam Ottavino and Edwin Diaz if the game stays close. Conversely, the Angels used closer Carlos Estevez for 1.1 innings last night and setup man Matt Moore has thrown in 3 of the past 4 games. If this one comes down to a bullpen chess match, the Mets hold the upper hand. The tactical blueprint for New York is straightforward: be patient early against Detmers, force him to throw strikes, and pounce on mistakes in the zone. The Angels' lefty struggles mightily when behind in counts and becomes almost predictable in sequencing. Alonso should be a focal point offensively, especially after homering on Saturday and showcasing a tighter swing plane. Jeff McNeil, who has quietly found his groove against soft-tossing lefties, is another sneaky candidate to rack up hits. Expect the Mets to push Detmers' pitch count early and test the depth of a bullpen that has cracked repeatedly over the last week. The Angels need a big day from Taylor Ward and Logan O'Hoppe if they want to contend. Ward is the team's hottest bat right now, hitting .351 in July with a 1.010 ops, and he's been driving the ball to the opposite field with more authority. O'Hoppe, meanwhile, is a dangerous fastball hitter who could turn around a Scott mistake. But the rest of this lineup, including Joe Adell and Mickey Moniak, is strikeout-prone and struggles with velocity up in the zone. If Scott locates, the Angels may find themselves stringing together very few quality at-bats. This game screams edge toward the Mets, not only due to home park familiarity and fresher arms, but also the lopsided pitcher matchup and better lineup splits against left-handers. While both teams are flawed, New York has more offensive stability and sharper command on the mound. Best bet: Mets moneyline. Despite their Saturday loss, this is a prime bounce-back spot with Scott's composure and the Mets' improving splits versus lefties giving them a real edge. Detmers has been a mess on the road, and the Angels' bullpen is flat-out exhausted. Strikeout prop: Christian Scott over 5.5 kiloseconds. With the Angels striking out over 9.7 times per game this month and Scott averaging 6.3 strikeouts per start at home, this line offers sneaky value. Home run prop: Pete Alonso to go deep. He's barreling pitches again and has homered in 2 of his last 3 games. Detmer's fastball location has been poor and Alonso feasts on elevated velocity. Total bases pick: Francisco Lindor over 1.5 total bases. Lindor has been locked in against lefties and has a .394 WOBA versus them in July. With Detmer's curve losing bite, Lindor may rope extra bases off hanging off-speed pitches. Bonus bet: Mets -1.5 plus 140. If New York gets to Detmer's early, this could snowball quickly. The Angels don't have enough back-end arms to stop the bleeding if the starter falters. SGP Parlay: Mets ML plus Scott 6 plus Ks plus Alonso HR, payout around plus 900. High upside but supported by matchup metrics and bullpen edge. Final score prediction: Mets 6, Angels 3. The Mets' top-end talent wins out and Scott controls the zone for 6 solid innings before the bullpen closes the door. New York capitalizes on Detmer's wildness and defensive miscues, while the Angels run out of steam late. Oracle Park turns into a war zone on July 21 as the Atlanta Braves head west to clash with the San Francisco Giants in what promises to be a brutally contested National League duel between 2 teams with drastically different identities but eerily similar desperation. The Braves roll into the Bay Area still reeling from Ronald Acuna Jr.'s season-ending injury months ago, yet they've kept their heads above water thanks to elite pitching, situational offense, and the continued emergence of Reynaldo Lopez as an ace-level force. Meanwhile, the Giants are in a mad scramble to stay relevant in the wild card picture. Their lineup has been feast or famine, with Heliot Ramos and Matt Chapman showing sparks of thunder, but inconsistencies across the roster continue to haunt them. Heading into this matchup, Atlanta owns a better road record and has been remarkably efficient against sub-.500 teams, while San Francisco's home field edge hasn't translated into dominance this season. Reynaldo Lopez will toe the slab for the Braves, and what a season he's having. After transitioning from a bullpen role to a full-time starter, Lopez has been nothing short of electric. Entering this game, he boasts a sparkling 1.71 ERA, a whip under 1.10, and an opponent batting average below .200. What sets him apart is his ability to locate his fastball up in the zone and then bury his slider late in counts, making him devastating against both righties and lefties. His splits against right-handed batters are borderline comical, just a .167 average allowed, and that's bad news for a right-handed heavy Giants lineup that has struck out more than any team in July not named the Rockies. Lopez has also gone 6 or more innings in 6 straight starts, putting him in elite territory when it comes to covering his outs recorded props, which are typically set at 17.5 or 18.5. In contrast, the Giants are sending Keaton Winn to the mound. Winn's been a mixed bag this season, with flashes of promise dimmed by command issues. He enters with a 6.66 ERA and has allowed 9 homers over his last 5 starts. Against a Braves team that thrives on launching mistakes deep into the night, that spells potential disaster. When handicapping the offensive firepower in this matchup, it's impossible to ignore Atlanta's upside. Yes, the Braves are without Acuna, but Matt Olson, Austin Riley, and Marcell Ozuna have all caught fire at various points, and the recent breakout of Ozzie Albies against right-handed pitching adds even more balance. Against Keaton Winn's elevated fastball and inconsistent slider, Riley and Olson stand out as prime home run candidates. Riley has crushed right-handed fastballs with a .294 ISO this season, and Olson has finally started to punish mistakes again after a slow June. Meanwhile, Ozuna's ops is back over .900, and his ability to drive in runs in key situations gives Atlanta a potent cleanup option to anchor multi-leg parlays. For San Francisco, the offense has shown flashes, particularly from Patrick Bailey, who's been red hot in July, and Heliot Ramos, who's provided pop and speed. Still, the overall consistency isn't there. If Ramos doesn't deliver in the top third of the lineup, there's little margin for error against an Atlanta bullpen that's locked in recently. From a strikeout prop perspective, Lopez is the clear target. His K-line will likely sit around 6.5, and that's very gettable against a Giants lineup that's fanning at a 26.2% clip in July. His pitch count is consistently in the 90s, and his whiff rate is elite. On the other side, Wynn's K-prop should be avoided. Atlanta doesn't strike out much against righties, and his leash has been short in recent starts. That brings us to the home run market, where Austin Riley and Matt Olson should headline. Riley especially is mashing elevated pitches, and Wynn's fastball location has been poor. He's given up 6 homers on fastballs over the middle third. Olson's HR odds will likely hover around plus 400, and Riley closer to plus 360, both of which offer value. Total bases markets are also intriguing here. Albies and Riley have both cleared 1.5 TBs in 4 of their last 6 games and will be matched up favorably here, while Ramos is a high variance but intriguing pick for San Francisco if you're hunting value. In terms of run line value, Atlanta minus 1.5 at plus money is appealing. The Braves are 12-4 on the run line when Lopez starts, and the Giants have lost 4 of their last 5 games by multiple runs. Weather-wise, wind should be neutral at Oracle Park, but the marine layer will keep ball flight in check early. That may favor Atlanta, which is more capable of stringing together hits than San Francisco, which relies more on the long ball. If you're looking for parlay legs, Albies 2+ hits, Riley to homer, and Braves ML is a viable combo that pays in the plus 500 range. A more conservative angle would be Braves ML plus Lopez over 17.5 outs plus Olson over 1.5 TBs, which could net plus 380 to plus 400 depending on the book. So how does it all shake out? On paper, this is a lopsided pitching duel. Lopez has been dominant, the Giants struggle with velocity and swing and miss stuff, and Atlanta is due for another breakout offensive game after several tight affairs. The Giants' bullpen has been serviceable, but if they're behind early, expect Atlanta to pile on late. The Braves' situational hitting, power, and vastly superior starting pitcher make this one lean heavily in their favor. Final score prediction: Braves 6, Giants 2. This is one of the best spots on the July 21st slate. Trust the Lopez K machine to silence the Bay and back the Braves to handle business on the road. When the Tampa Bay Rays arrive at Guaranteed Rate Field to face off against the Chicago White Sox on July 21st, it'll be a matchup of 2 franchises traveling in very different directions but still capable of creating betting chaos. The Rays, hanging in the thick of the AL wild card race, enter this clash with one goal: capitalize on every winnable series to stay afloat in the brutally competitive American League. Meanwhile, the White Sox, buried deep in a rebuild and playing mostly spoiler now, are still an unpredictable team at home, a roster loaded with young, hungry bats and the occasional pitching surprise that could flip betting scripts in one inning. Zach Eflin is expected to take the mound for the Rays, and while his 2024 campaign has been somewhat up and down due to injury management, he's still their most stable and experienced arm. He brings elite command and a solid 4-pitch mix that thrives when he's ahead in counts. Eflin doesn't overpower hitters, but his walk rate is among the lowest in the league, and his ability to generate weak contact plays well against impatient lineups like Chicago's. If he can execute his cutter down and away and keep his sinker off the middle of the plate, he's more than capable of coasting through 6+ innings. The Rays will also hope his ground ball tendencies neutralize the handful of power threats in the White Sox lineup, especially in a park that can punish mistakes. Opposing him will likely be Chris Flexen, the journeyman righty who's been an innings eater for Chicago but is frequently vulnerable against lineups with strong right-handed power. Flexen has struggled this season with home runs, sporting a bloated ERA north of 5.50 and giving up multiple big innings even against lower-tier teams. The Rays, although no longer the same offensive juggernaut they were a couple of years ago, still possess pop from top to bottom. Isaac Paredes, Randy Arozarena, and the red-hot Jonathan Aranda could give Flexen major problems. Paredes has been crushing right-handed pitching, and Aranda's been quietly producing solid at-bats since his return from injury. Tampa's ability to work deep into counts and chase Flexen early could not only tilt this game but provide live betting value by exposing Chicago's shaky bullpen before the sixth inning. The White Sox offense, while inconsistent, does have some thunder in the form of Luis Robert Jr., Eloy Jimenez, and Andrew Vaughn. If Eflin leaves anything elevated, particularly on the first pitch, these guys can change the game with one swing. The challenge, though, is that Robert has been dealing with nagging injuries all year, and Jimenez is still fighting to regain his timing after another stint on the IL. Their offense ranks near the bottom of the league in runs per game, batting average, and on-base percentage, which means they're often forced to rely on solo shots or two-out rallies rather than stringing hits together. Against a command artist like Eflin, that's a dangerous way to live. Defensively, the Rays have a clear edge. Jose Caballero has stabilized their infield defense at shortstop, and their outfield arms, particularly Arozarena in left, limit extra base damage. The White Sox, conversely, have one of the lowest fielding percentages in the majors and are prone to throwing errors and miscommunication in the outfield, which could compound Flexen's issues. One key angle to watch will be the run game. Tampa has ramped up its stolen base aggression lately, and against a catcher group like Chicago's, which ranks bottom 5 in caught stealing percentage, the Rays could generate runs even without stringing hits together. Weather may play a factor as well. Forecasts suggest humid conditions with slight winds blowing out toward left field, not ideal for Flexen's fly ball profile, and it could make home run props particularly enticing. Left-handed Rays bats like Josh Lowe and Brandon Lowe, if in the lineup, become extremely intriguing here, especially in early counts against a pitcher who doesn't get many swings and misses. For total base props, Paredes and Arozarena are standouts, both offering good splits and history against mediocre righties. Strikeout props are worth exploring too. Eflin isn't a huge strikeout guy but consistently lands in the 4 to 6K range. Against a free-swinging Chicago lineup that has the third highest strikeout rate in the AL against righties, even 5.5 at plus money is worth a lean. Flexen, on the other hand, is nearly unplayable in strikeout markets. He rarely goes deep into games, and Tampa doesn't strike out enough to justify much risk there. If you're targeting this for parlays, consider avoiding the strikeout angle on the White Sox side altogether. From a run line perspective, Tampa Bay is a tough team to back at -1.5 on the road given their tendency to play close games. However, against a struggling arm like Flexen in a bottom-tier bullpen, the Rays' offense has real potential to separate late. Betting them straight up on the moneyline is the safe play, but if you're looking for value, taking Tampa -1.5 with a team total over 4.5 is a parlay that pays out at strong plus odds. It's even more compelling if you believe Flexen won't make it out of the fourth inning, as the White Sox bullpen ranks 28th in ERA in the 6th through 9th innings. One creative angle lies in same-game parlays. A combo of Paredes 2+ total bases, Rays moneyline, and Eflin 5+ strikeouts is realistic and pays out in the +450 to +600 range depending on your book. For riskier plays, you could throw in an Arozarena home run, as he's due for a power surge and hits fastballs and hanging changeups, Flexen's two most hittable pitches, very well. In the end, this game screams mismatch on paper. The Rays have the better pitcher, better lineup, sharper defense, and deeper bullpen. The White Sox are hoping to spoil and play free, but their offensive inconsistency and leaky pitching make them hard to trust, especially against a playoff-hungry team like Tampa. Look for the Rays to strike early, force the Sox to the pen by the 4th or 5th inning, and pour it on with extra base hits and aggressive base running. Final score prediction: Rays 6, White Sox 3. Tampa covers the spread, and the full game sneaks over the total. The Texas Rangers arrive in Oakland with a mission to prove that their inconsistencies this season don't define who they truly are, and a matchup against one of baseball's worst teams gives them a prime opportunity to get right. The Athletics, meanwhile, continue to be one of the league's most volatile teams for bettors, sometimes surprisingly feisty at home and other times sleepwalking through innings. As of now, the verified pitching matchup has right-hander Jon Gray, Rangers, set to take the mound against J.P. Sears, Athletics, setting the stage for an interesting contrast of styles. Gray, though not elite, has continued to provide Texas with serviceable innings and flashes of dominance when his slider is on. His 2025 campaign hasn't been exceptional, a 4.26 ERA with a 1.27 WHIP, but against weak offenses, he tends to feast. The A's certainly fall into that category. Their offense has been bottom 5 in nearly every metric over the past 30 days, including runs per game, OBP, and isolated power. They don't hit velocity well, and Gray is still touching 95 with solid chase rates. He should be able to generate swing and miss stuff against this anemic lineup. J.P. Sears has a more complex profile. On paper, he holds a 5.03 ERA, but he's suffered from poor defense and an inflated HRFB rate. When he's in command, his cutter-slider combo plays well to both sides of the plate, especially at home where the foul ground in Oakland can bail him out. But he's been extremely hittable against teams with pop in the heart of the order, and Texas still has that even with Josh Jung injured. Marcus Semien has heated up in July, Corey Seager is barreling everything lately, and Adolis Garcia remains a constant home run threat. The Rangers lineup has also been more patient in recent weeks, which matters here because Sears struggles when he falls behind in counts. Oakland's bullpen has been overexposed and ranks among the league's worst in ERA and WHIP after the 6th inning. So even if Sears finds 5 decent innings, the Texas bats have a strong chance to blow this open in the late frames. This is also a sharp spot to buy low on the Rangers after a road loss, where they've bounced back with a 63% win rate in their next game across the last 2 seasons. Texas has owned this matchup, too, winning 14 of the last 18 head-to-heads against Oakland. Most of those wins came by multiple runs, and this is one of those rare road favorites where the run line -1.5 still holds significant value. Expect Gray to command early, induce weak contact, and hand off a lead to a rested bullpen while the Rangers lineup systematically pressures Sears. The A's are averaging just 3.22 runs per game in July, and when they trail early, they rarely respond. There's also been significant sharp movement toward Texas in early lines, indicating respected money coming in on the visitors, even at juice near -150. Strikeout props are worth a hard look here. Jon Gray's K prop is likely to be listed around 5.5, and with Oakland's strikeout rate sitting near 25.8% versus righties this month, there's value on the over. Gray has hit 6 or more strikeouts in 4 of his last 6 starts against bottom-tier offenses. As for Sears, the under on his strikeout prop is tempting, especially if it opens at 4.5. Texas is not a heavy strikeout team, and they've worked deep counts against left-handers all year, including 3 straight games going under the projected K line for opposing lefties. Home run props for Texas are rich with potential. Corey Seager and Adolis Garcia both have ISO numbers north of .260 versus left-handed pitching and are crushing the ball over the past 14 days. Seager is due. He's had 3 balls hit over 105 miles per hour in the last 2 games with no home runs to show for it, so this could be the game he sends one over the wall. Garcia's pull power plays perfectly in Oakland's dimensions and he's seen J.P. Sears well in past matchups. Consider laddering Garcia's total bases as well, especially since he thrives in low-pressure spots against bottom-tier arms. For those looking at team totals, the Rangers over 4.5 feels very safe. They've crossed that mark in 10 of their last 13 games against Oakland and average 5.4 runs per game when facing left-handed starters this season. The A's team total under 3.5 is also in play. They've failed to reach 4 runs in 8 of their last 10 games. And in terms of bonus bets, the Rangers minus 1.5 run line at plus money feels like the sharpest value on the board in this matchup. It's rare that a road favorite offers positive return with a clear edge in lineup, bullpen, and starting pitching. For a realistic SGP parlay, you might look at a modest plus 400 to 500 range build. Rangers moneyline, Gray 6 plus Ks, Seager to record a hit, and under 5.5 team total for the Athletics. It combines the key matchup angles with realistic outcomes based on each team's recent form. The only risk is if Sears randomly throws a gem, which he's only done once in his last 10 starts, highly unlikely given the matchup and ballpark conditions. The final score prediction is Rangers 6, Athletics 2. Expect a fairly methodical win for Texas where they grab a lead early and never let go. It won't be flashy, but it will be efficient, exactly what you want to see from a team looking to make a late playoff push. The Athletics remain a team to fade unless there's a major pitching mismatch in their favor, which clearly isn't the case here. Texas handles business and remains one of the better value teams on the board heading into the weekend. When the Chicago Cubs square off against the Kansas City Royals on July 21st, the matchup carries more than just another tick on the schedule. It's a clash of two clubs trying to navigate turbulent 2025 seasons, each with different aspirations, roster dynamics, and fan expectations. The Cubs have hovered just below contention, clinging to wild card hopes behind solid play from their rotation and bullpen, while the Royals are caught somewhere between rebuilding and shocking spurts of competitiveness, sparked by their young offensive core and better-than-expected starting pitching. The setting for this pivotal Sunday showdown is Kauffman Stadium, and the mound matchup features veteran righty Jameson Taillon, CHC, facing off against young left-hander Cole Ragans, KC. With both teams trying to close the weekend strong, bettors and fans alike should look closely at how the tactical layers, splits, and trends shape the best value on the board. Taillon has been one of the Cubs' more consistent arms this year, not flashy, but steady. He comes into this start with a 7-4 record, a 3.92 ERA, and a 1.21 WHIP across 102.2 innings. What Taillon lacks in overpowering velocity, he makes up for with location, mixing his cutter, four-seamer, and slider to induce soft contact. His recent form has been dependable, going 6 or more innings in 4 of his last 5 starts and allowing 3 earned runs or fewer in each. The Royals' offense, while improved and sneaky dangerous, has posted below-average numbers against right-handed pitchers, especially ones with good command. Kansas City is hitting just .241 with 8.693 ops against righties in the last 30 days, and their young hitters like Michael Garcia and MJ Melendez have struggled to adjust when facing arms with experience and late movement on breaking balls. Cole Ragans, meanwhile, represents one of the Royals' few major wins in recent trades. The left-hander has turned heads all season with his sharp fastball changeup combo, striking out batters at an impressive clip. Ragans owns a 3.58 ERA and 124 kiloseconds in 108 innings, but what separates him is his ability to get whiffs inside the zone. His command occasionally falters, leading to spikes in pitch counts and early exits, but his ceiling is high. The Cubs, however, are one of the league's better teams against left-handed pitching, especially with a righty-heavy top half of the lineup. Chicago has been slugging .432 against southpaws since the start of June, with players like Seiya Suzuki, Dansby Swanson, and Patrick Wisdom finding their rhythm. Ragans could be in for a labor-intensive outing if he can't establish his secondary stuff early in counts. The situational splits also play a big role in how this game might unfold. The Cubs are 6-2 in their last 8 road games against left-handed starters, and they've been aggressive early in counts during day games, ranking 5th in the league in first-pitch swing rate during matinee matchups. The Royals, on the other hand, have gone just 3-7 in their last 10 home games against teams with a winning record. Defensively, the Cubs have quietly been elite in run prevention, ranking top 5 in defensive runs saved, and they've allowed the second fewest stolen bases, neutralizing one of the Royals' preferred methods of generating pressure. Another edge for Chicago is the bullpen hierarchy. While the Royals' pen has been slightly better than advertised this season, anchored by James MacArthur and Angel Zerpa, they still lack depth when starters exit before the 6th. The Cubs can turn to Julian Merryweather, Mark Leiter Jr., and Adbert Alzolay in high-leverage situations, all of whom have posted sub 3.50 ERAs and solid strikeout-to-walk ratios. In close games, this trio has shut the door frequently. If this game becomes a low-scoring battle into the 6th or 7th, the edge clearly tilts toward the Cubs, who trust their relief crew in pressure scenarios more than Kansas City does. From a betting perspective, there's strong value on the Cubs' moneyline, particularly if the opening line hovers around -110 to -120. With a righty versus lefty advantage, veteran control on the mound, and better late-inning arms, Chicago holds multiple edges. For total bettors, the under 9 has intrigue, given both starters, recent form and the spacious outfield of Kauffman Stadium, which tends to suppress home runs, especially in the humid July air. Watch line movement closely. If the total creeps up to 9.5, the under becomes even more attractive. Strikeout prop bettors should target Cole Ragans over 6.5 kiloseconds, as the Cubs strike out at the 10th highest rate against lefties, and Ragans has exceeded that number in 3 of his last 5 starts. However, Talen's K prop is better avoided. It usually sits around 4.5, and the Royals' contact-first approach makes it a shaky wager. For home run props, look to Patrick Wisdom as a sneaky pick. Wisdom has a .548 slugging percentage against lefties this season and matches up well with Ragans' fastball location tendencies. Seiya Suzuki is also an intriguing play, particularly if Ragans leans too heavily on his four-seamer. On the Royals' side, Bobby Witt Jr. is always worth a sprinkle due to his raw power and all-fields approach, even against right-handers who pitch to contact. In the total bases market, Dansby Swanson over 1.5 bases offers plus value. He's seen the ball well against lefties, has multiple multi-hit games in his last 10 appearances, and should hit in a premium run-producing spot. For the Royals, Vinny Pasquantino continues to be the steadiest presence in their lineup. He's hitting .301 at home this season and could cash an over 1.5 bases prop on doubles alone. Run line bettors might be tempted by the Cubs -1.5, which pays generously in matchups like this. If Talen keeps the ball down and limits walks, the Cubs could build a lead by the middle innings and let their pen close things down. Conversely, live bettors could eye the Royals if Ragans looks sharp early and the Cubs strand runners in scoring position, a common flaw in their 2025 offensive profile. And finally, for bettors building SGP parlays, a solid ticket would look like Cubs ML plus Ragans 6 plus Ks plus Swanson over 1.5 TBs plus under 9 total runs. That same game parlay offers around plus 850 to plus 1000 depending on the book, and all legs align with the tactical breakdown and matchup data entering this game. Final score prediction: Cubs 5, Royals 3. The Colorado Rockies head into Busch Stadium on July 21 to face the St. Louis Cardinals in a late-season clash that's far more intriguing than their records may suggest. For two franchises sitting far from the playoff bubble, this series presents not just a platform for individual performers to stake their claim but a golden opportunity for savvy bettors to find sharp edges. While the Cardinals are firmly the favorites based on pedigree and recent home form, the Rockies bring a feisty offense and some under-the-radar betting value into this matchup. Let's begin with the confirmed starters. Miles Mikolas will take the mound for the Cardinals, while the Rockies counter with Cal Quantrill. Mikolas, though once a reliable workhorse for St. Louis, has had a rocky 2025 campaign. Entering this start with an ERA hovering near 5.00, his struggles with command and hard-hit contact have plagued him all season. He's generating fewer whiffs than ever before, and while he can still induce soft contact against righties, left-handers are slugging over .500 against him this year. That's bad news when facing a Rockies team that's quietly hitting lefty pitching well. On the flip side, Quantrill has stabilized recently after a disastrous April. He's not flashy and won't overpower anyone with his strikeout stuff, but he's leaned more on a sinker-cutter mix lately to induce more ground balls, and it's working, especially on the road. It's also important to consider the park factor. Busch Stadium generally suppresses home runs. It's not a launching pad like Coors Field, but that doesn't mean there won't be scoring. The Cardinals' lineup is built to exploit mistakes with gap-to-gap doubles, and the Rockies' bullpen, with a collective ERA well north of 5.00, is likely to crack under pressure late. That said, the Rockies' offense has traveled decently well this year, especially with their top trio of Ryan McMahon, Brenton Doyle, and Ezequiel Tovar showing improved approaches at the plate. They may not hit for the same power away from Coors, but they've found ways to get on base and make contact against right-handed pitching. Offensively, the Cardinals are still anchored by Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt, although both are showing signs of aging. Arenado's bat speed isn't what it once was, and Goldie has been inconsistent month to month. Brendan Donovan and Alec Burleson, however, are offering timely hits and steady OBP numbers, which has kept the offense afloat. The wild card in this lineup is Mason Wynn, who's had a breakout stretch this July and could provide havoc on the base paths against a Rockies battery that struggles to control the running game. Tactically, the Cardinals will try to work counts against Quantrill and wait for his command to slip, forcing him to elevate the sinker or miss with the slider. St. Louis is much more comfortable against pitchers who pitch to contact, and Quantrill fits that mold. The concern for the Cards is their bullpen, especially if Jojo Romero and Ryan Helsley are unavailable due to recent usage patterns. The Rockies can chip away in the 6th and 7th innings if the game is close. Expect aggressive base running from Colorado to pressure the Cardinals' infield, which has been shaky defensively aside from Arenado. Now let's break down the betting angles. The full game total opened at 9.5, which feels a touch high for Busch Stadium, especially with both starters capable of throwing 5 to 6 semi-clean innings. The key variable is the middle relief from both sides. Colorado's pen ranks dead last in WHIP and HR9, and even average offenses have lit them up. However, St. Louis hasn't consistently punished bad pitching this year, often squandering runners in scoring position. If you're taking the over, you're banking on the bullpens to implode. First 5 innings under 4.5 has more value here, especially if both starters stay composed. For the side, the Cardinals are understandably priced as favorites -160, but that line is a bit rich considering how mediocre Mikolas has been. A Rockies plus 1.5 run line play is intriguing, especially if you buy into Quantrill's improved form and a competitive early game scoreline. Live betting opportunities will likely appear in the 6th or 7th when bullpens enter. That's when overs and alt-run lines can offer sharp value depending on the situation. Strikeout props are thin here. Quantrill rarely strikes out more than 4 batters in a start, and the Cardinals are a contact-heavy team. Mikolas also doesn't offer much upside. He's cleared 5 kiloseconds in only 3 starts this season. Both unders are in play here, especially if the sportsbooks list them generously at 4.5. The best prop action, though, might lie in total bases and home run props. Keep an eye on Ryan McMahon, who matches up well against Mikolas's low-velocity sinker. A McMahon 2+ total bases play or even a deep shot is a worthy flyer. On the Cardinals' side, Burleson is seeing the ball well and could be a sneaky home run prop with plus odds. As for bonus angles and parlays, here's a sneaky SGP build to consider. Cardinals moneyline plus McMahon 1 plus hit plus Alec Burleson 1 plus RBI. That should pay in the plus 350 to plus 450 range depending on the book. Another higher variance parlay. Rockies plus 1.5 alt line plus first 5 under 4.5 plus McMahon 2 plus TBs, potentially paying plus 600 or higher. In terms of final score prediction, this feels like a 5-4 Cardinals win. It won't be a clean game, but the Cardinals' lineup depth and late-inning experience give them the edge, even if Michaelis struggles early. Expect some bullpen chaos, a few key doubles from the Cardinals, and at least one big swing from McMahon or Doyle to make it close late. But ultimately, the Rockies' inability to shut the door in late innings will cost them. Still, that makes Colorado plus 1.5 and the first 5 under appealing ways to attack this matchup from a betting perspective. The Desert Heat meets Texas Thunder in a Sunday evening showdown between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Houston Astros, a matchup that holds postseason implications and prop betting gold if you know where to look. It's a contrast in trajectory. The Diamondbacks, last year's NL darlings with a scrappy, speed-first identity, are trying to regain consistency and claw their way up the wild-card standings. Meanwhile, the Astros, once a dynasty of dominance, have been inconsistent but dangerous, still sitting within striking distance in the AL West behind a crowded race with Seattle and Texas. This game could serve as a temperature check for both teams. On a humid night at Minute Maid Park with the roof likely closed and the air conditioning humming, the bats could still be hot enough to spark fireworks. We'll see righty Ryan Nelson toe the rubber for Arizona, a pitcher who's had flashes of reliability but often finds himself punished when he falls behind in counts. His ERA has hovered in the high 4.80s this season, and the whip near 1.40 tells the story of too many base runners allowed, especially with a fastball that lacks deception and a curveball that's been hit hard. Nelson has particularly struggled against right-handed hitters, surrendering a slugging percentage north of .480 to them this season. That's a massive red flag when you consider the right-handed Thunder in Houston's lineup, names like Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, and the always lethal Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker, even from the left side, will feast on missed locations. On the flip side, the Astros counter with rookie standout Spencer Arrighetti, whose 4.65 ERA masks some encouraging peripherals. His strikeout rate has steadily climbed, and he's shown better command over his fastball-slider combo in his last 5 starts. He's posted 3 quality outings in that span and appears to be settling in as the Astros' rotation stabilizes post-injuries. Arrighetti is particularly effective the first 2 times through the order, but fatigue and pitch selection become issues by the 5th inning. The key here will be how quickly the D-backs can force long at-bats and get into Houston's bullpen, which has been a mixed bag this year. Closer Josh Hader has been lights out, but the bridge to him, especially in the 6th and 7th innings, remains leaky. Offensively, the D-backs rely on Corbin Carroll to be the table setter, but his sophomore campaign has been plagued by regression and a nagging shoulder issue that's affected his power stroke. Kettle Marte continues to be the steady engine in the lineup, sporting an OPS near .820 and strong numbers from both sides of the plate. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Christian Walker provide the punch, especially against left-handers, but they've been inconsistent against righties like Arrighetti. One X factor to monitor is the base-running pressure Arizona can put on the Astros. This is a top-5 team in stolen bases, and they may test catcher Yainer Diaz early, particularly if Nelson can keep the game close. Let's get into what matters most, the betting angles. Best bet: Astros moneyline -150 or better. The Astros simply have too much lineup depth and an emerging starter on the mound against a pitcher like Ryan Nelson who struggles to keep traffic off the bases. Even if it gets into a bullpen duel, Houston's superior back-end arms give them the edge. Strikeout prop: Spencer Arrighetti over 5.5 kiloseconds. Arrighetti's whiff rate has improved and Arizona ranks in the bottom 10 in the league in strikeout percentage against righties on the road. He's cleared this line in 4 of his last 6 starts, and the matchup plays into his ability to elevate the fastball. Home run prop, Kyle Tucker. Tucker has been crushing poorly located four-seamers and breaking balls all season. He's hit 5 bombs in his last 10 games and should have plenty of opportunities with Nelson's fly ball tendencies and weak secondary stuff. Total bases prop, Yordan Alvarez over 1.5 terabytes. Alvarez against mediocre righties is nearly automatic. He's cleared this number in 7 of his last 10 games and matches up beautifully with Nelson's arsenal. Expect 1 double at minimum, if not allowed homer. Run line bonus bet. Astros minus 1.5 plus 125. If you're comfortable with some extra juice and see this turning into a multiple run game, which the data supports, Houston could easily pull away late once Arizona dips into their middle relievers. The Astros have won by 2+ runs in 4 of their last 5 home wins. SGP Parlay idea realistic payout plus 550 to plus 650. Astros moneyline. Spencer Arrighetti 6+ strikeouts. Kyle Tucker to record a hit. Over 7.5 total runs. This is the kind of high-value parlay that balances ceiling with probability. Tucker's bat has been hot, Arrighetti's in form, and even in a Houston win we should see Arizona scratch across a couple of runs to help this hit the over. Final score prediction, Astros 6, Diamondbacks 3. Arizona will get some early runners on, perhaps manufacture a couple of runs through speed, but Nelson won't be able to keep Houston's lineup at bay. The Astros erupt in the middle innings, and their bullpen shuts the door. This is a game that could turn into a backdoor cover on the run line if the Diamondbacks get caught trying to be too aggressive on the bases late. This matchup between the Seattle Mariners and Milwaukee Brewers isn't just about national exposure, it carries potent postseason undertones for both clubs. The Mariners, perched near the top of their division, need to prove they can close out series on the road, while the Brewers, fighting to hang onto wild-card relevance, see this as a critical bounce-back chance at home. With the series rubber match set for Miller Park, both clubs are matching veterans against Arsenal-driven aces, but the lines tell a story worth digging into for anyone serious about beats. Veteran lefty Logan Gilbert draws the start for Seattle after a strong July run. His current inventory, a 3.15 ERA, 1.05 WHIP, and 10.5 K9 across 105 innings, is built on a premium fastball changeup mix that induces a 32% chase rate. He's quietly adjusted his cutter and curve on the road this month to match his home form, and that pivot makes him more effective in fly ball heavy venues, like Milwaukee's Park, which suppresses barrels when Gilbert pounds the zone. Against the Brewers, who profile as a mixed bag with power and contact versatility, Gilbert's ability to avoid the meat of the barrel and work deep counts puts that bullpen insurance in play early. Milwaukee counters with veteran right-hander Aaron Ashby, a pitcher who leans heavily on swing and miss with heavy fastballs, changeups, and a hard slider in touch and go right now. Ashby carries a 3.90 ERA and 1.22 WHIP but is only averaging roughly 5 innings per start this season. His ceiling is high, when he's sharp he racks up Ks, but he's also prone to the long inning, especially once he strands his front-loading heat for strikes. The matchup is delicate. The Mariners swing early in counts and have root run power in the middle of the order. Ashby must either blow them away or get tagged early. His first 5 stat line will be one of the sharper props to monitor, as Ashby has allowed 5 or more runs in 4 of his 8 road starts this season when weather bumped his pitches up. From a run environment perspective, Miller Park has been mildly favorable to hitters this month. Team totals are pushing toward 4.5 runs home and away. Temperatures are expected to hover in the low 70s with winds blowing slightly to center, making it neutral to slightly lively for both sides. That suggests June's stale trends may reverse, especially if Ashby or Gilbert lose early. Strikeout props have clear primacy here. Gilbert's line sits around 6.5 kiloseconds, and given his uptick in swinging strikes and matchup versus an aggressive Brewers lineup, the over looks solid. Ashby's K line will probably land near 5.5, that's yankable in both directions depending on how he commands that slider. Milwaukee's power-heavy top four, Willie Adames, Christian Yelich, Rowdy Tellez, and Rhys Hoskins, can ratchet a game within an inning or two. Adames and Yelich live on fastballs early. Yelich has 10 RBs in his last 8 home games, while Adames has 3 homers in that span too. On the other side, Seattle counters with Julio Rodriguez, who's regaining form and has 4 homers in July, and Ty France, who slugs .480 on fastballs from quality starters. Weather won't force homers like a summer Sunday in New York, but a perfectly placed swing from either lineup could punch a one-run hole in the game. Bullpens may be the decisive factor. Seattle's late-inning arms, Paul Sewald, Matt Brash, and Andres Munoz, have combined for a SUB 3.00 ERA since the break and are hunting multi-inning holds. That sets up an interesting angle, over 4.5 runs for the Mariners' first 5, and Seattle ML behind the fear they'll get to Ashby early and bleedouts late. Milwaukee's bullpen has also tightened up of late, but their longest lever arms, Aaron Ashby behind the scenes, are spending significant time watching from the pen, and the rust may show. With Ashby going 5-ish, both bullpens are eager to turn and run. Let's break down value bets. Best bet: Mariners moneyline at around +110 or better. That number feels soft given Ashby's history of early exits and Seattle's bullpen advantage. First 5 over 4.5 runs is another strong play, especially if Ashby lets one fly or Gilbert misfires early. Strikeout props: Gilbert over 6.5 kiloseconds is solid. Ashby over 5.5 kiloseconds could hit if he's locked in, but faded if weather creates elevated run scoring. Home run props: Julio Rodriguez and Willie Adames are standouts. Adames +400 has been consistently attacking lefties inside, while Rodriguez +350 could free drive a slider that bleeds over. Total bases: Ty France over 1.5 terabytes is tempting. He's taken balls the other way heavily and will square up the first fastball he sees. On Milwaukee's side, Rhys Hoskins over 1.5 terabytes gives plus juice with his natural pull tendencies and recent track record versus lefties. Run line angles: Mariners -1.5 is worth a small unit if Ashby gets knocked around and the bullpen shuts down the Brewers late. SGP Parlay: Seattle ML plus Julio Hour plus Gilbert 7 plus Ks, paying around +700 to 800 depending on juice. High payoff built on correlated edges. Final score prediction: Mariners 5, Brewers 3. Seattle strikes first, adds against the pen late, and Ashby manages 5 with 4 earned before the bullpen sharpens. Brewers push with a late 2-run shot but don't close. This is a measured road win in a key series for both clubs. The final showdown on July 21 brings us an interleague heavyweight collision between the Los Angeles Dodgers and Minnesota Twins, two teams traveling opposite arcs but both loaded with firepower and urgency. The Dodgers, still buzzing from recent offensive explosions, welcome the Twins to Chavez Ravine for what promises to be a late-night West Coast classic under the California lights. The storylines are all here: the return of a red-hot Freddie Freeman, the lethal combo of Betts Ohtani at the top of the order, and a Dodgers bullpen that's slowly tightening the screws. The Twins come in grittier, battling in the AL Central with a chip on their shoulder and a balanced blend of power, contact, and an underrated pitching staff. Chris Paddack gets the nod for Minnesota, and while he's had moments of brilliance this year, he's now facing arguably the best top 3 in baseball in Betts, Ohtani, and Freeman, a trio that has chewed through right-handed pitching like a buzzsaw in July. Paddack's splitter has been a weapon lately, generating a 39% whiff rate, but when he misses, especially in the zone, he gets crushed. And that's exactly what you fear against a team like LA, which punishes hanging secondaries and ranks top 3 in slugging versus RHP since the All-Star break. Opposing him is Walker Buehler, who's looking sharper every outing as he finds his groove again post-Tommy John. While his strikeout numbers haven't bounced back to pre-injury levels just yet, his command is starting to lock in, and the four-seamer has been getting back to riding action up in the zone. The Twins, a team that can get streaky with the bats, present a decent challenge. Byron Buxton is healthy and doing serious damage, Carlos Correa is quietly putting together a resurgent campaign, and rookie Brooks Lee has brought a much-needed jolt of bat-to-ball consistency to the lineup. If Minnesota can be patient and work Buehler deep into counts, they'll find themselves in position to test the Dodgers' middle relief, an area still vulnerable when Evan Phillips and Brusdar Graterol aren't available. But the bigger issue is whether the Twins can keep the game close early. Law's team total in first 5 innings has been among the highest in the league over the past 3 weeks, and with the way Ohtani and Freeman are swinging it, Paddock could find himself in a 4-0 hole by the 4th inning. That's not the scenario manager Rocco Baldelli wants against a team that leads the NL in comeback suppression. This is also a park factor edge for the Dodgers. Dodger Stadium is playing slightly to the over lately, with warm air and low humidity allowing balls to carry well to left center, prime territory for Betts and Ohtani, who've both peppered that gap relentlessly in July. For Twins hitters, this also presents a sneaky boost. Lefties like Matt Wallner and Max Kepler should find better carry here than in Target Field, especially against a pitcher like Buehler who occasionally gives up fly balls when he loses fastball elevation. One of the quiet storylines worth watching is how the Twins attack Buehler early in counts. He's been throwing first pitch strikes at a 72% clip, well above league average, and if Minnesota hitters are passive, they may find themselves in too many 0-1 and 1-2 counts against a guy who knows how to finish. So where's the betting value? The market will naturally inflate the Dodgers' price due to their offensive form and name brand reputation, but the real play may lie in the run line or team totals. The Dodgers have covered the run line in 7 of their last 9 games at home, and when they win, they tend to blow the doors off. Their average margin of victory in the last 10 wins, a staggering 4.3 runs. So while the moneyline is too juiced to back directly, the -1.5 play offers sharper value and aligns with the way LA is rolling. Total bettors should eye the over if Paddock gets hit early. Neither bullpen is elite at the moment, and both lineups are capable of late fireworks, especially the Dodgers, who rank top 5 in runs scored in innings 7-9. Best bet for this matchup is Dodgers -1.5 at anything under -130. It may get steamed closer to first pitch, so early grab is ideal. For props, look straight to Shohei Ohtani. He's batting .411 in July, slugging .730, and has a strong matchup here against a fastball splitter righty. His total bases prop is a strong ladder candidate. For those looking at strikeout props, tread lightly on Buehler until his velo ticks back up. He's more of a pitch-to-contact arm right now. Paddock K prop is set around 4.5, and if the Dodgers jump him early, that under is very live. Home run plays. Ohtani is the obvious chalk, but look at Freddie Freeman. He's quietly heating up and has crushed changeup-heavy pitchers historically. If you're fishing for value, James Outman is seeing the ball well and could be a deep dart in DFS or home run pools. As for same-game parlays, consider Dodgers ML plus Ohtani 2+ total bases plus Freeman to score a run, a combo that's hit in 4 of Law's last 6 home games and offers +350 to +400 value depending on book. Final score prediction: Dodgers 7, Twins 3. LA jumps out early, Paddock doesn't survive the 5th, and the Twins' late surge isn't enough against a hungry, playoff-sharpened Dodgers squad. The Chavez crowd goes home happy, and the West Coast bettors cash late-night tickets again. Before we dive into today's full board breakdown, make sure to smash that subscribe button for Beyond the Box Score, the channel that delivers daily betting heat. data-driven predictions, and next-level insight you won't find on the mainstream feeds. Drop your best bet in the comments, tell us who's going deep tonight, and don't forget to like the video to help us crush the algorithm. Let's get into it.